status of the Bremerton Police Department.
Yeah, I thought I'd go last and then let Pat and everyone, Kylie, get out of here if they got stuff to do. But some of this does touch the fire department in where we're going. So as we started our conversation at the study session about the levy coming up, the council was talking about data and information and everything. And our last meeting, I wanted to kind of go over some stuff so you guys kind of knew the status of the police department, kind of where we're at after the last couple of years, and just kind of where crime rates are at and all that. And I thought we'd start here, and then I've got 3 experts from the council then can tell me what does the full council want to hear when we come to the levy and stuff. What more do you give Pat and I a chance to kind of tell you what you need to know to go forward with the levy? So just kind of a 10,000 foot overview, but a little more data oriented and everything. So and I'm pretty sure I sent out the yearly crime stats. Did you guys get that?
Yes, we have gotten those.
So it looked kind of like that. So just highlight a few things. Certain things are way up, but if you look at the total number of crimes, statistically, oh wow, oh my God, it's 73% up, but there was 7 of those. So it's like, that's not that big a deal. But the things that are of concern, I think, are the assault rates have gone up in every category, especially the minor assaults. They're up 50%. That's twice as many. That's quite a bit of things. Theft is way up, all thefts. And then the burglary rates are also significantly up. And then our robbery rates have gone up. So that's all very, that's concerning, especially when you look at some of the numbers, how high up they've gone significantly. And then another one, and it continues to plague us. We had a murder in the county this last week with a drive-by shooting, and that's an ongoing thing. Between us and county, we're working on that and going after the actors on all sides of that. But that is something we haven't seen in Bremerton for a very long time. And to see that now climbing up, that kind of gang type activity, is very concerning. We are working with our community activists and stuff to help us out in that. That's something we didn't have in the past. So that's kind of awesome. So in 2021, we promoted 11 people. That's a lot of promotions in a department of, we're authorized 64. We had a total of 7 new hire commissioned officers, but we had a total retire, resignation, or probation terminated of 9. So we had a net loss of 2 people in 2021. So we lost 9 people overall as far as commissioned officers. And then in 2022, we lost 7 officers. So that takes us to 16 total right there. And we've had a total of 12 new hires. And in 2022, we did 7 promotions. So that's 16 promotions in 2 years. So what I'm pointing out to you is we're a very new department. We have a lot of new leadership, balanced out by I'm so old. So that kind of helps, I think. But we are building our police department back to where it needs to be. And in the middle of all of this building, we're going to lose, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We will lose 5 people this year. So in 2 years time, we'll have lost 25 people. That's a lot. That's a lot of work to train. The hiring process takes us, it used to be about a year to get someone on the road. Now we're closer to a 1.5 years, almost 2. One of the things that we have taken action on is we have placed an officer, we're trying to place an officer at the police academy who will be a training, they call them a TAC officer. They will be responsible for training at the police academy. If we provide that person, the state covers their wages, covers their travel costs, all that. And we can actually replace that body here at home if need be. And then the other thing it does is we get to go to the front of the line. So when we have new hires, We don't currently, we hired a young man in January, and he went on the list for November of this year to get into the police academy. So he's someone, and we're competing literally with every agency in Washington. It used to be, we'd always, like council, you'll hear when we talk about negotiations and wages and things, they're always talk about the comps. Who are our comparables? And when it comes to law enforcement now and wages, we're comparable literally to everyone now, because we're competing with, like small agencies like DuPont or Stillicum or Furcrest. They're hiring people and everything, and because people are realizing it's just costing us a lot more to get people hired and into law enforcement. So those are kind of big picture things. So what number should we be at? Where should your police department be at? Well, I'll tell you that in 2007, we had a population of about 35,000 people, and we were staffed at 66 officers. And those of you that were around, the bottom fell out of the economy, and we lost about 11 people through retirement and other attrition issues. And then we just never replaced them during that time. So we spent the last, decade or more slowly growing back to where we're at 64 now. We don't have 64 hired. We still have 5 positions open, and we'll have 5 more. So again, a net gain of 0. And it's taking us a long time. We've had 2 of the people that went through the police academy, they did not make it through their field training, and they were let go. So we don't want to run into a situation like we saw in Memphis, where we're just hiring people for the sake of hiring them and lowering our standards. We're going to continue to have our standards very high and hold people to those standards. So, and that's why we don't have some of the problems we're seeing in other places in the country. So again, we're at 64 now. The comp plan from 2015 called for 1.8 officers per 1,000. So that would put us at this year at 81 officers. So we're behind on our comp plan. We probably want to revisit that. I know Garrett in the city is working on updating the comp plan as we go forward. I think we should talk about what is a realistic number. The national average for law enforcement is 2.4 officers per 1,000. When I talked to people at Juneteenth, I was talking to this young man, and he was all excited because he wanted to do a police athletic association thing like they do in New York. And I was talking to another young man from somewhere in Texas, and they had this really cool program from where they were from. And I got to thinking, I go, I feel bad. Why aren't we doing these programs? These sound amazing. And what I started looking into it was, okay, their staffing in New York is 4 per 1,000. They have a lot of people to do a lot of different things for their community. We basically have enough people to run 911 calls and do our major felonies and some traffic enforcement. And that's kind of where we're staffed right now. So it's looking at what do we want? What do we want it to look like? The other thing that's really, I think, highly frustrating is, at the state level, we started this whole conversation 2 years ago about what the police should and shouldn't be doing. And there was a whole discussion on, this is what the police are doing and this is what we want them to do. And I don't think we disagree with that. I don't think fire disagrees with that, but no one else is doing this. There's no one picking up the phone when people call 911 and going and taking care of behavioral health issues. We're still the only ones responding. We're still the only ones doing that. Our fire department, their call load is 8 to 10,000 calls a year. And of those 8 to 10,000, police usually go to 25% of those on the front end to make it safe. They're not wearing bulletproof vests. They're not trained to fight with, aggressive, hostile people. Many of the calls that they end up being dispatched to are just completely unknown. You could listen to it and say, oh, well, that's a medical call. And then you get there and find out, well, it's more than just a medical call. It's someone that's a real handful. And so we partner with them and we do that. The chief pointed out something really great the other day that I just took for granted and hadn't thought about, but the hospital went out to Silverdale. That's another huge burden on law enforcement and fire when you stop and think about it for a minute. So the city's broken into 5 sectors, and we put 1 officer in each of those 5 sectors on a good night. Some nights we only have 4 out there. We make do. But we put 1 officer in each sector. And so if the officer on the east side has someone that has to go out to the hospital, a behavioral health issue, someone that's super intoxicated, that is violent, someone that's under arrest for a felony crime that we can't just let go, but they have to be seen at the hospital before the jail will accept them. Now we have to drive out to Silverdale and sit on them until they're taken care of at the hospital. So that's 1/5 of the police department at the hospital. If they're super violent and they're really dangerous, then that's 2 officers. That's 2/5. That leaves 3 officers and a supervisor back home minding the store. We run out of officers really quick that way. And then from there, they have to go all the way down to Port Orchard to put them into the jail. Sometimes what happens is we'll take someone to the jail, and the jail will refuse them and say, oh, no, they have to be seen by the hospital before. So it's all the way out to Silverdale and all the way back. That really cuts into our serviceability and what we can do. So we're running between 45 and 50,000 calls a year. So that's kind of an overview.
Well, you know, I think both chiefs, both of you chiefs, have done a really thorough job of talking to us about this. And I, for one, certainly don't want either of you to feel that our request for clarification or for a different kind of distillation of the information that you've given us or whatever is a lack of support, because if anything, I think it's quite the opposite. We want to, you know, if we need to do this, we want to do it well and support it all the way. Jennifer, you've got your hand up.
I wanted to be respectful. Chief Wolf, did you have some other data that you wanted to present to us? That was a really good piece that we didn't, you know, we don't think about, is that your officers have to transport to and from the jail and the hospital. Was there anything else, any other data you wanted to share with us?
Well, just a couple just small things. One of the things that has changed dramatically in law enforcement, and it's not a bad thing, but it's how we actually do business. We use time, distance, and shielding in a way that we haven't in the past. And what that means is if we're out with a behavioral health subject and they're violent, we're going to get more people there. We're not just trying to do it with 1 or 2 people. We're going to get as many officers as we need. We're going to get the equipment we need. And then if we have a navigator, that's awesome. And then we're going to try and talk these people down. And if it takes us an hour to talk to them, it takes us an hour to talk to them. What that means, though, is that during that time, there's all kinds of calls piling up. And I don't know if you guys have noticed at the city council, but citizens are pretty used to McDonald's. And when they put in their order, they expect to get to the window and have the order handed to them. They kind of want that with city government, and we can't provide that level of service. We sure try, but we can't always meet that. And as you know, people get frustrated, you know, whoa, why weren't, you know, I called 3 times last night and no one ever came. And it was like, well, there was no one to go.
And so we have 2 navigators on staff now, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you said if a navigator is available, do we not have navigators available 24/7?
No.
Okay.
No,
Are they full-time FTEs?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any nighttime navigators or on-call availability?
No.
I wonder if that's something that could be restructured so that you could do that. I imagine that there's probably situations. I don't know about their, you know, bargaining agreement. I don't know anything about that. Is it not an option in their bargaining agreement to have nighttime hours?
Well, I think the again, it's what is the mission of the navigator? The navigator is navigating the mental health situation and or drug and alcohol for people. One of the problems that we have is, and I talked to the council, is we don't have beds available. It's great to talk about detox. It's great to talk about drug court and diverting people. But if we're going to divert them, we'd better have beds for them. We'd better have a detox for them to go to, and we don't. The other issue we have is on the mental health side of things too. We don't have beds. We don't have DCRs that come out into the field. We have Cashapp Mental Health in our backyard, who is responsible for the county, and they have quite a bit of resources, but we don't see those resources on the street in a meaningful way to help us. So we have our navigators working while other resources and people, Olympic Peninsula Health, the Cashapp Rescue Mission, Salvation Army, other agencies are available, so that way they can interact.
So the navigator just means navigator, which is
Yep.
something that I don't think I understood until recently. They don't come out and de-escalate in a mental wellness capacity.
They have in some situations, yes, absolutely.
Okay, but it's just if they're available. And so, okay. So I'm assuming, here's some of my questions. I'm assuming you can't interlocal, you know, when you have somebody who needs to go to the hospital or to the jail and vice versa, they have to be assisted by the jurisdiction charging, correct? You couldn't say, hey, we have, I mean, you know, like if you have the 3 or 4 sectors, if 2 or 3 sectors that are uncovered or whatever, you know, 1 or 2 sectors, you can't, when you get calls, you don't generally call in and say, like, ask the county for assistance.
Oh, we do that all the time. We constantly, and the county does that with us. We run out of police officers in the county. This is a team sport, and we all, especially at night when we get the more violent, like the giant bar fights, county or city, everybody's coming.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know what you're
Quinn has his hand up too.
Yeah, is it
Jennifer, do
okay
you
if I
mind
finish, if I go ahead and finish my questions and then I'll be done? Okay.
Okay.
And so sometimes those uncovered sectors can be covered through interlocal agreements. So what you're asking for, Chief, is what kind of
to answer
data?
you that no,
I don't
that's
think he's
really
asking for
simplifying it.
anything.
Yeah, he asked what kind of, he's been asking, his presentation, the whole point of the presentation is he wants to know from City Council what data we're looking for and to present at study session.
Well, and how to present it.
Yeah.
Sure, but I don't think the details, I think we're getting into some details that as far as management of staff and everything, I think staying at that broader level. Quinn, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I'll jump in, and Jennifer, I'll give you some time back because I know you weren't finished, but I think just going back to your original question, Chief, like what at least I heard from council was like a request for like visual, and if you need help with that, like I know you guys are really strapped, like I can even help with that. Like it sounds kind of corporate, but I think even having like a mini slideshow of like, this is the why. And I think putting those compelling whys up front so that council really understands, because like the way that council's looking through it is through the eyes of like the voters that are going to vote us in next time, right? Like, okay, why are we raising our taxes? I think it's $30 per 100,000 or whatever it is. But I think putting those really strong points at the beginning of like, hey, the average in the US is 2.4. We have 1.5. We are supposed to have, 69 officers or whatever the number is. This is how many we have. This is how long that pipeline takes to get an officer into the academy, onto the streets. This is the attrition rate that we're seeing. This is how many people we're thinking about retiring. Just those like really compelling statistics right at the beginning. And then, they love a good packet. So the crime stats that you gave to this committee, include that in the packet, like anything that's visual, because they're going to dig into that. But like starting with that why, I think would be really helpful. And I can't remember, are you coming back to us this study session or is it calendar?
No, and if I could, I've had a conversation with Mike Riley in which it came up that I believe the chiefs just wanted a general sense from us, and it didn't, they are prepared to give us a lot of detail. I don't want a lot of detail at this time. I don't think we should get a lot of detail at this time because things can change and it can be packaged differently. And, you know, I think from council, what we said was, this is a lot of information. We'd like it, you know, in like a bullet point, you know, what are the main reasons for this? You know, we can get into the nitty gritty, you know, later on, but what I want to avoid is taking a look too closely at what that package is going to include when we're not there yet, when you're not really there yet. So, you know, I wanted to clarify that and certainly give the chiefs an opportunity to say, no, actually, we wanted something else. But Mike Riley had said, you just had wanted really kind of like, you know what? Overall, we feel pretty positive about this. Yeah, keep percolating, keep working on this. Is that what you wanted? Chief McGanny?
I was gonna see if Jennifer wanted to finish and then I'll dive in.
Jennifer.
Okay, so you were asking, you know, what council would like to see and what kinds of questions. So I keep asking over and over and over again, tell me the breakdown again, who, what, and I know that sometimes that's subject to change, but that would be nice in the packets too. And Quinn's absolutely right. We, some of us are visual. We want to see it in writing. A proposal, we understand it's a proposal that's subject to change, and you can put a little asterisk subject to change. But to know, you know, like I have it written here from before, 5 paramedics, 3 PP, 1 office. So what does that mean? Oh, paramedic, firefighter, paramedics. Okay, that's what that means. And then 2 to traffic, 2 community officers, and 4 detectives. So, and then, the medic 24/7. I mean, like I wrote all these things out, but we would like to see the visual of what the breakdown's going to be. I think that we probably need some kind of justification why, a property tax increase is going to work better than asking us for, you know, like normal, like Eric mentioned, right? Like, why is this property tax increase a better idea in the long run than coming to council as you have before with, you know, 1 year fire, the next year police, right? That's kind of how it was before with requesting new FTEs.
Yeah, and I think just circle back real quick, and I want to hit this before it gets completely away from me. It's super oversimplification to say county's going to come in and cover sectors that aren't. They're not going to do that.
Gotcha.
They will come in when we completely ran out of officers, and like if we get tied up on a homicide or one of our guys gets hurt and we're all tied up, they'll come in and shag a few calls for us, the high priorities, but we're going without law enforcement services for everything else until we can get some people in from our department.
And so maybe in a visual, you could show us the 5 sectors of the city.
Yep.
That would be nice. And
part of that too is the way that the city geographically is starting to develop, especially in the West End in District 7. That's almost creating a 6th district just geographically because of the time to get out there, the number of people. We've got houses going in that area like crazy. Anderson Hill touches Port Orchard, and it's part of the city. And we have houses out there now that we're responsible to patrol, and we really don't.
Yeah, McGanny took me out there, didn't you? Like out that way, show me all the. No, that wasn't where we went. That was somewhere different.
No, that's a different section of the city.
Oh, you're right. Okay, we're talking about Ski Town. So another figure that I'd love to see too is data research, like a cited research on what the best practice is for how many officers per 1,000. So 1.8 per 1,000 is lower than other municipalities, but what is the best practice that, like, why do you get that? Where do you get that figure from?
I think maybe a suggestion would be to put in a link, maybe in the presentation or something. I think we've got some conflict here within the council members, because I don't want more information at this point. I really don't. And I think it's unfair, really, to be asking for that now. A lot of information's been shared. People take notes. I'm not gonna, the problem is I'm not gonna recall any of that unless it's in bullet form, unless, you know, unless it's an organized group of ideas. You know, it's what you tell me, I'll take little sound bites of it, but it really needs to be organized more. I want a lot less information, actually, so there might be some conflict here. Quinn, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I agree, because I think you guys were looking for a thumbs up. I was ready to give a thumbs up. I think I gave a thumbs up. I just, having been on council with certain members, I know that like even just like a purchase agreement for cars, we needed to like go back and make sure all the documents were like all set up. So I would come to, my suggestion is come to a happy medium at this stage and do just like a real quick, if you want to do, you know, PowerPoint with like maybe 2 pages of a packet of like the high level stuff so that people can actually just visually see it. I think that's what I was hearing most at study session was like, we needed visual. Then we can give you the thumbs up to be like, okay, yeah, we are behind this initiative. Start laying the groundwork now that we actually see the visual stuff for the staff member time to get into the weeds. Because I think that's where this is leading, right? Is building a case for the voters and for council to make this. And we want to put in that staff member time, but we want to make sure that council's behind it in order for it to get onto the ballot. That's the goal, right? Is to make sure we're behind it so that the voters can then decide, right? Kylie,
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, for you know, and you know, Councilman Chamberlain, I like that you press in and you ask those questions. What you're asking for may not be attainable. If you're asking for scientific data, I probably don't have that for you. But what I can tell you is numbers. Like if you look at what 66 officers did for 35,000 people in Bremerton, our crime rates were at their lowest. You know, that same number at 45 should be about 81, 84 officers, and we're nowhere near that. We're 20 below that number, and our crime rates are going up. I can point to that. We're kind of like doctors, and I try to say this about law enforcement. We practice law enforcement. I love how doctors use that phrase. Oh, we're practicing medicine. Well, because it's not an exact science. And I do know that we're the lowest staffed in the country. The average in the nation is 2.4 per 1,000.
Okay.
We're not even trying to get to 2.4. We're trying to get to 1.8.
And I'm not asking for scientific data. So like,
Gotcha.
like having that as a visual is probably good in bullet points. So
And
all the
that's
things
what
I was saying are good bullet point items.
Yeah, and I was racking my brain on my master's degree if I did a paper on that. And I'll go back and look at my papers. And,
You will not. Don't lie. You're not going to
oh,
go back.
no, I've got
Nobody
them
ever
all.
goes back to their master's thesis when they nobody does. Nobody
Oh, yeah.
does.
I've
He's
got
a
it.
nerd.
those
He'll
2
totally do it.
pages, those 2 pages, let's make sure they have plenty of white space.
Can I?
If you know what I mean.
I think Chief
Not
McGanny-
just two pages of text, you know, let's mix it up a little bit.
But
So
I think
Chief,
too, it's
are
really
there any-
important.
what else do you want to share with us? I mean, we don't always get you here.
Yeah.
So it's your opportunity too to talk to us.
Well, I guess I'm also looking through the lens of, yeah, I have a master's in criminal justice, but I think I feel like I have a PhD in the city of Bremerton. I've been here 35 years. I've literally walked the beat. I still get out on the bike and patrol our city. I get nose to nose, toes to toes with our citizens and what's going on out there. I'm probably not qualified to go to San Diego or Bellevue or wherever, but Bremerton, I know Bremerton, and I have a huge heart for it. And I know where we've come from crime-wise. I know what it was like here, and I know how bad it got during a couple seasons there. And we've really come a long ways as a city, and I don't want to see us go backwards. We have challenges, and I think our citizens, your people that vote for you guys that I talk to regularly, public safety is really their number one thing right now. it hasn't always been there. And what that means is we were doing a great job and we were on top of it. And then it's not a concern. And that's the weft and weave of law enforcement. When you're doing great, you stop gaining bodies, you stop, it's, oh, everything's fine, we don't need to do it. And then it turns into a crisis and, oh, we better manage our crisis. We call that crisis management. So,
just a real quick,
Yeah.
just a request. So rather than doing 2021, 2022, 2023 breakdown, if you have a bullet point of over the past 3 years, we've lost X amount of officers. We've had 7 X amount of promotions. That would be helpful rather than breaking it down by year. I think that would be, and Chief Begani, I apologize. I think I might have taken your time away.
That's okay.
He offered it. He offered it.
I offered to give it to you, so.
And I took it. That's what I do. I'm going to stop now.
So I will apologize for City Council. I was trying to keep things for this at a 30,000 foot level to get the nod to go forward because of the amount of staff time this is going to take and the time crunch that we are under. So by coming back to you at the 22nd, what you're asking for is going to take a significant amount of staff time between the police and the fire department to put this together. Yes, we have the data, we gave the data, but to put it together in a presentation is going to take staff time. And it's my staff time, the chief's staff time. For me, I don't have the administrative support, so I've got to put this together. Well, I have a lot of other things that are going and trying to take a vacation. So that's why I kept it at a 30,000 foot level, just saying, give us the nod that you support it and understand, then we'll put it together and bring it to you. We're really going to have to put everything together for the 22nd. And so your presentation is going to be a little bit more. I'm going to have to work with Kylie to get the ballot language and the resolution because we're under too big a time crunch to get it to you, to council, for you guys to approve it. To get it to the county where we need to.
Understood.
That's why I was trying to get the head nod to say, yes, go forward. We're in support of it. We need the presentation. Then we'll bring that to you because if we're going to put it on the ballot, we're under
we're in go time now, kind of.
Yeah. So we're going to have, what you're going to get is, my plan is to have everything ready with a resolution. Ballot language we can work on, but the resolution will have to be ready. And the PowerPoint presentation, which you're asking for, all the data, will have to be ready on the 22nd. And then you guys are going to make it. If the council doesn't support it, then they don't support it. But everything has to be ready.
I think we get what you're saying about. Plus, we've got to remember, when I realized that the chiefs are the one that prepare this stuff, I thought, we expect chiefs to be able, to do this stuff. Anyway, Quinn, you've got your hand up, and Kylie also.
Yeah, I'll defer to Kylie. It's a real quick question, Kylie.
Go ahead.
Sure. I was just trying to think back to the last study session as to who the holdouts were of not giving the head nods, and I feel like we almost have at least 5 people that are fine with it moving forward. So I don't even know.
It seemed like maybe Eric for sure. I don't really know about the.
Okay. I definitely.
Yeah, and so that was the whole thing, guys. It's like we just didn't know if when we started talking, we were talking about this before the retreat, and trying to get an idea because we don't know. Obviously, if all of you are going to be of the same mind as Eric, hey, I'm not putting my name on anything that's increasing taxes. You can go figure it out some other way, guys. And if that had been the prevailing viewpoint, then we would not have.
But it wasn't.
I know,
right?
But that was where that was basically I think what the chiefs were trying to get at was how many folks are just going to be this is not something I'm going to be asking the voters to approve. So no way, no how. Don't care how well you put it together.
I think you have before, to be honest. Go ahead, Chief. Sorry.
Can I ask? I just wanted to answer one question real quick that Jennifer had brought up, and Eric had brought it up at the study session. Is why can't we do it this normally? The general fund. The reason we're bringing this to council, right? I mean, as the fire chief and the police chief, we have a problem, right? We're bringing the problem to City Council. we're also bringing the solution to you to how to fix it. General fund,
What you
unless
just said, Chief, what you just said, Chief, is the first sentence of your pitch. It's like, Houston, we have a problem. Okay, and we're bringing you the problem and the solution. So just hold on to that. Anyway,
I
go
will.
ahead, Chief.
But the general fund can't, this is a $2 million a year ask. Right? I mean, that's really what it is when you look at it. Our general fund, unless city council is going to make other choices of where general fund money is, like taking it away from streets and finding it, we don't have $2 million a year in the general fund to support this. I mean, plain and simple, even if we did it over, you know, a 2 or 3 year period, by the end, you're still looking at over $2 million a year in FTEs. And then, like I said, unless we're going to do something else, which I don't think we're going to do, this is really the only solution, is to put it to the taxpayers. And if the taxpayers say no, right? If the taxpayers say no, then they need to understand the service level that they're going to get, right? We're giving them an opportunity to say, here's the problem, here's the cost to it, because we have service level issues. It's going to do nothing but get worse, but they're the ones that are going to vote for it. Same thing that happened in South Kitsap, right? That fire chief is shutting down a fire station because the residents of South Kitsap said no. And if they say no the next time, they're going to shut down another fire station. So we can only do what city council and the citizens are willing to fund.
Right, but it's so important how we make that ask. It really is. How we present that case to the voters. And I think the council is trying to say that, you know, it's important. And I think all I need, really, I feel comfortable talking about this, right? I just want council want us to be covered for this, right? With some bullet points and stuff. Chief Wolf?
Well, and one of the questions that came up, I think it was a study session, was why police and fire together? And the point that I really want to point out to people is police and fire are in public safety together. If I don't have enough officers on the street going to calls, one of the things that people don't realize is that a lot of calls we get, an officer can go and check on it and clear it and take care of it. You don't want to roll out your fire truck 60 more times in a month. The cost to the city on that, and Pat, you got all those numbers around your head, but just from a business standpoint, that's a bad business model. If we're putting lots and lots of miles on our $1 million fire trucks when it could have been handled by an officer real quick and easy, but if we don't have anyone available and it leans towards medical, we're going to say, well, send fire because we're not available. And that's why we're in this thing together. All of this, the mental health stuff, we both cross over. They use our navigators as much as we do. So the whole public safety thing, it's police and fire out here on the streets doing this together. So that's why we're coming and saying, this is what we think we need to get to where we think we should be right now. This isn't going to,
this isn't handling the growth that we're expecting.
This is not going to take us into 10 years forward. This is just getting us to be able to handle the problem we have in front of us.
Right.
That's why we're asking for that.
Kylie, you've got your hand up.
One of the questions I had is whenever we were talking about this, Judge Flood popped on and the meeting, do you recall that? She was watching from Zoom and made the comment that increasing police officers would also increase court filings, and that that there would also need to be an increase in that. Would it be helpful for us to look, and that there's a basis for that comment in that, but there's also, I think, I guess kind of a more, what the chief was talking about, that it's more officers needing to go to calls now, because modern policing is different than former policing, where they would, for lack of a better word, they would go tackle people, and now they don't do that as much, and that's great. And so it does take more people to do better policing, I think. I think it keeps people safe. And so I don't know if it's going to necessarily translate into more chargings just because we've changed the way we do business. And so I do want to just put that out there, but I will say that there is at least historically a basis in that comment, but maybe just to point out that it might not be the same ratio or whatever that you would think of maybe before. And I'm happy to pull stats from my office about filing and what we've seen over the years, if you guys think will be helpful.
What I'd like to do, because we've got council members that need to leave, I'd like to oh, and Quinn, I see you have your hand up. I want to talk about next steps. I mean, I really am feeling like we're putting a burden on the chiefs and asking for a presentation, and yet I feel like we've got to have something to go back to council to get that thumbs up that you want. And so I'm wondering how best to do that.
I think just let us, we're gonna come prepared with more than 2 slides presentation.
Uh-oh.
Let's just say that. Well, because you guys spoke that you're very visual and you want information, but if we're going to put this together, I don't want to put a piece of it together and then we're going to put it together. So if the citizens have a question, it's there. The why will be there. I mean, to us, it's simple, right? I mean, we're in the trenches running the calls and seeing the effects of what we're doing. It's hard to get that across. I mean, Jennifer got to see it. She came and rode, 24 hours. She was a little bit of a white cloud, which I'm disappointed in.
Well, and the way you talk about it may not be the way we talk about it, or
right.
The way Joe Smith on the street talks about it, right? Quinn, I want to give you a chance to.
Yeah. I was just going to say my last couple comments on this are, I think you at least have 4 council members that would be, even without a presentation, fine with you going forward, if I'm counting correctly. And secondly, I think Kylie's point and Chief Wolf's point is really powerful and should be included in that as well, as not only to kind of counteract the rising crime or the unsheltered individuals, like the needs there, but like being able to do policing and firefighting, EMTing compassionately and making sure that we get really good outcomes. And I think that will be persuasive as well. So I don't want that message to be lost for council or for the voters. I think that will be persuasive. That's all I have.
So what I'm hearing then is that the chiefs will come back with what they choose. We've given them input, and now they're in the driver's seats. You'll come back and engage again, and hopefully council will give you that heads up. If you need a formal vote, we'll have a formal vote. So let's try to make sure we're on your schedule, we're giving you what you need to proceed. And we're going to try to make that happen. So I'm with Quinn, whether there's a presentation or not, but I think that there's a dedication now from Chief McGanny. We're going to give it to you. We're going to give you that presentation.
I'll keep it under 90 slides. How's that? No, and the reason that it's pushed, because I believe the 22nd study session, and then the next, the 29th is the 5th. So now we're getting into April.
Yeah, there's only 2 more. There would only be 3 council meetings between then and the last option.
So that's why you're really going to get a full presentation, and you'll have everything for you guys to approve for to put onto the council meeting for either general business or consent, at least the resolution to be able to move forward.
Well, and I was even asking Kylie recently, I think some of you were taken aback when I asked, when does the lobbyist get involved? Because I'm just used to, if you've got a lobbyist, you know, you use that lobbyist in crafting the bill, crafting the levy, you know, and that's where you get into the wordsmithing, for lack of a better word. But I don't know. I'm going to see him next week because I'm going to be down there in Olympia with him. And Kylie, I mean, it's, you know, writing, it's getting something like this. It's not in his contract, is it?
Yeah.
Helping us
No,
out with
no,
levy
no.
lists. Yeah.
No, we have some resources we can lean on, and it's not like, I mean, there's certainly plenty of examples, right? I mean, it's not
Well,
like,
and luckily we have the EMS levy that we run. So I mean, and I've already started tweaking that language. So I'll tweak it and then get it to Kylie for her to work her magic on it. But at least it'll get us
That's great.
in the right framework. So
yeah,
I
I was
think
actually
that-
thinking about talking to Bagwell about it too. I mean, he's been involved in them. I mean, because he represents almost every fire district, I think, right?
yeah, they're just a little bit different because they're looking at levy lid lifts, and this is just
Right.
basically a tax increase. But it's
Oh,
less than it
okay.
was in 2018.
Yeah.
All right, so are we fairly clear with this then? I think I am. And I want to thank the chiefs for suiting up and showing up. And again, please, I hope you don't take that council need for a different kind of distillation of the information as a lack of support, because I agree with Gwen. I think you've got strong support for this on the council. So all right.
I'm reading Jennifer's comments. I'm not sure what that means.
Oh, let's see.
So insurance.
Half here, but insurance pooling issue. I don't.
Oh,
There, she's
okay.
back.
Oh, there
Well,
she is.
I'm here. I'm here-ish. I don't think we can talk about it here because we already talked about it with Jeff. So never mind. Okay.
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 All right.
Okay.